Mr. President, I rise today to express my deep disappointment with the administration's decision to cancel plans for fully developing missile defenses in Eastern Europe. This decision calls into question the security and diplomatic commitments the United States has made to Poland and the Czech Republic, and I believe it has the potential to undermine American leadership in Eastern Europe. Given the strong and enduring relationships we have forged with the region's nations since the end of the Cold War, we shouldn't, I believe, take steps backward in strengthening these ties. Yet I fear the administration's decision will do just that, and at a time when Eastern European nations are increasingly wary of renewed Russian aggression. The administration's decisions to abandon these sites come at a time when the U.S. is in the midst of negotiations with Russia on reducing strategic nuclear weapons. Russia has long opposed the planned missile defense sites in Europe and has on numerous occasions tried to link reductions in offensive strategic nuclear arms with defensive capabilities such as missile defense. In fact, President Putin, on many occasions, has stated in very belligerent tones his opposition to this agreement that was already made between the United States and Poland and the Czech Republic. The U.S. should reject the Russian attempt to further this argument and capitalize on these ongoing negotiations. As rogue nations, including North Korea and Iran, push the nuclear envelope and work tirelessly to develop weapons capable of reaching America and its allies, we must aggressively develop the systems necessary to counter such belligerent efforts and enhance our national security, protect our troops abroad, and support our allies. Enhancing missile defense capabilities in Europe is an essential component to addressing threats we currently face and expect to face in the future. As Iran works to develop ballistic missile capabilities of all ranges, the United States must reaffirm its commitments to its allies and develop and deploy effective missile defense systems. Mr. President, I'd like to point out two important factors. The United States of America does not believe that missile defense systems are in any way a threat to any nation. They are defensive in nature, and I believe were a key component and factor in ending the Cold War. Now, intelligence assessments apparently have changed rather dramatically since January the 16th. According to Eric Edelman, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy under Secretary Gates during the Bush administration, intelligence reports on the Iranian threat as recently as January of this year were more troubling than what is being portrayed by the current administration. Mr. Edelman maintains that, quote, maybe something really dramatic changed since January 16th, and now in terms of what the Iranians are doing with their missile systems, but I don't think so. You know what? I don't think so either. I think the fact is that this decision was obviously rushed. The Polish prime minister, according to news reports, was called at midnight. The agreement was made and ratified by these countries after consultation, discussion, and a proper process. They were not even notified of this decision. The decision to abandon the missile defense sites in Poland and the Czech Republic came as a surprise to them. I understand that administration officials were on a plane supposedly to arrive in Poland today. I might add that members of Congress were also not briefed on this decision prior to reading about it in the newspaper. I was not informed. I didn't know what, quote, new technology was being recommended to be put in the place of the agreement. And on as short a time ago as August 20th, the United States said, quote, the United States is committed to the security of Poland and of any U.S. facilities located on the territory of the Republic of Poland. the United States and Poland intend to expand air and missile defense cooperation, etc. We all know that the Iranian ballistic missile threat is real and growing. We all know that the administration is seeking the cooperation and help of the Russians. Now we will see. Now we will see. Why was this agreement rushed into, or the abrogation of an agreement? Why was the abrogation of this agreement between the United States with Poland and the United States with the Czechoslovakia rescinded in such a dramatic and rushed fashion? We all know that the Iranian ballistic missile threat is real and growing. How many times have the, quote, intelligence estimates been wrong, dating back to and including the Cold War? As many times as they've been right, I tell my colleagues, whether it be their assessment about the war in Iraq or whether it be the capabilities of many of our adversaries, including the Korean buildup, which we have been consistently wrong. So Poland and the Czech Republic asked what many at the time perceived an unpopular agreement. Despite threats from Russia, both governments recognized the importance such a defense capability would provide to their citizens and to Europe as a whole, and agreed to allow the United States to place ground-based interceptors in Poland and a mid-course radar site in the Czech Republic. What are these countries going to do the next time we want to make an agreement with them, Mr. President? In view of the way that this decision was made and was announced without their, or shall I say, made known to the media before they were even told about it. So it'll be very interesting to what we get in return. It sounds like, according to a Christian Science Monitor Global News blog, it's, quote, "We see this as a pragmatic decision," says Pavlo Zadorov, Deputy Director of the Official Institute of U.S.-Canada Studies, suggesting that internal U.S. factors mainly account for Mr. Obama's choice. Quote, "Obama's sober approach is understandable given the economic crisis because this project would have given nothing but trouble. It sounds like Moscow has already discounted this sweeping strategic concession from Washington. Experts suggest that's because Russia's foreign policy establishment had been expecting such a decision, at least since Obama hinted that he might give up the missile defense scheme during his summit with Russian President Dmitry Medvedev in Moscow last July. Quote, "We've been getting signals since last spring that made it seem almost certain that the missile defense plan would be set aside," said Fyodor Lukyanov, editor of Russia in Global Affairs, a leading Moscow foreign policy journal. So, Mr. President, the Russians seem to have anticipated this decision. Unfortunately, the Polish government and the Czech government did not. And members of Congress were certainly not informed of this decision until after reading about it in the media. It's not the way to do business. I think it sends the wrong signal to the Russians and to our friends and allies. And so we all have, there are consequences of every decision. I believe the consequences of this decision may be, albeit unintentionally, encourage further belligerence on the part of the Russians and a distinct lack and loss of confidence on the part of our friends of allies in the word of the United States and commitments of the United States of America. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that articles in the Wall Street Journal and the Christian Science Monitor be made part of the record at this time.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
Senator from Montana.
I ask unanimous consent that I be permitted to speak as if in morning business for up to 10 minutes.
Without objection.
And that the time be